My apologies for sending documents out 3 different times. I'll try to get those consolidated to one. It was kind of the way, sounded like the way your guys' week went too. So you understand how those things go. I'm hopeful, we've got not a lot of actual agenda items, but some of them could be quite lengthy. I'm hopeful we can be done by 9:30 at the latest. Or maybe earlier, who knows.
You're a funny man.
It's all right, I can stream the bone in.
I have the pork loin roast in the crock pot.
I do want to make introductions. We have a new member with us tonight. Jamie Woodward is down on the end there. Jamie. Jamie is representing the Transportation Department.
Nice.
So, welcome.
Jeff,
Thank you.
We're a harmless group, so don't be nervous.
Not nervous. We're pretty good.
Okay. On the proposed agenda that I sent out, I do want to apologize for not changing the date. This really is not August 17th again.
I didn't even notice that.
I know. I would like to, also at each of your spots, there was a copy of the minutes. Typically, I will not do this. We made a decision that the United SJSD minutes are going to go out after every meeting to all staff. Okay, hopefully you got the email and saw it. So when you get those all staff emails, please read them because the minutes are going to be in there. So after this meeting, I won't print those off again. They'll be available to you when Bridget sends them out to the whole district. Does anyone see anything in there that they feel like needs to be amended? I'll give you a minute to look through those.
Dr. Kraus, under where the attendance, the very bottom bullet, it had been requested that the report be rerun, but that's not in the minutes.
That can easily be added. Bridget on their community said it was requested that the report be rerun excluding PD days.
School business, yeah.
The PD and school
PD
business.
and school business. And then we can make that an October agenda item again. Anybody see anything else on the minutes they would like to discuss? Okay, so we will amend the minutes as stated. All in favor, raise your hand, please. Opposed, same sign. Looks good. Let's go on. Next, the calendar discussion and selection. Hopefully all of you brought your iterations of the calendar with you. Last time, I think we had 4 examples of, last meeting, 4 examples of the 9-month calendar and 1 of the 260. And I created an example 5 and 6 of the 9-month. Let's look first at the 260 calendar. I think this one will be relatively simple. The basic framework of this, depending on what day of the week July 1st falls on, determines whether or not there are 260 or 261 actual weekdays in the year. For 18-19, from July of 18 through June of 19, there are exactly 260. So what that typically has meant historically here is that the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, which in this case is the 21st, becomes a paid day off for everyone. Okay, for the 12-month staff. I shouldn't have said for everyone, for the 12-month staff. And there are the 12 holidays that are paid. Those have been consistent from year to year. And then there are 6 paid days off in addition to that. On the version of the calendar that's there right now, it shows the 5th and 6th of July, the 26th, 27th, and 28th of December. Now, November 21st is not figured into that 6. So right now, 5 of the 6 are listed. I know a number of you that work with 12-month staff or have 12-month staff in your groups had spoken to them. I heard from Julie. Really, we have one more day to add because there are 5 in there, and we can move those around. It doesn't matter, but my thinking was people always seem to like having the full week at Christmas, so I put the 26th, 27th, 28th in there. November 21st, again, won't count in that 6 because it's a 260-day work year. And the 5th and 6th I had put in there, so we've got any of those 5 that could be moved and add one more. Julie, can you give me a synopsis of what your folks were thinking?
So I asked the group, which our clerical group, there's not a whole bunch of 260 days because there's a lot of elementary and all that in there. But if they would prefer to have a spring break or have those 2 days be in July. I got 14 replies. 10 of them said they wanted some sort of spring break, and then the other 4 liked the July days. So I don't know, we were just a small group. I didn't really know what TMC building thought. There's a
Well, we're gonna
bunch,
hear
so
from
I didn't really know.
people.
That was what my little group thought.
Okay, so kind of 10 for more of a spring break and 4 for kind of the way it is. Paul, did you talk with some of your folks?
So what the responses I got back after sending it all out was, there's 2, everyone kind of had a different idea. But more people said number 1, the first calendar that you had proposed.
Okay, now are you talking 9-month or the 12-month calendar?
Probably the 9 month, I mean,
Okay.
the original one.
For
So
right
the
now,
I
let's,
haven't had much response on this.
okay,
the
right now I
12
want to
month.
focus on the 12-month and we'll get
Okay.
to the 9-month.
Didn't
Okay.
have a whole lot
So
of response
you
on
didn't
it.
get a lot of feedback on that?
Didn't get a lot of feedback on the 12-month. I know there was confusion, we were talking to one, but I can't remember if that was coming from Secretary from Clerical, I think.
I think they were
about the
getting
4th of
confused
July.
about they were thinking, well, we're off that Friday anyway, so I had to explain that the holiday, we weren't really off. We had to work the 8-hour days, which it says in here. There was a little
Right.
bid. I think
Right.
I
Roy,
emailed
what'd you
them
hear
that.
from your folks?
I didn't get a whole lot of feedback either, which surprised me because everybody in my group is 12 month, but there were merits on both. You know, people could add vacation days or other days and extend to more of a summer vacation if we took it in July and versus spring break. But that also can be done to a certain extent, a little bit of flexibility. So it was almost an even split on what few responses I had.
Okay. Dr. Norman, did you get some feedback from
I did, and my group, it didn't make a difference to them,
Okay.
either way.
Let's see, who else has 12 months, folks? Guess that's it. You know, one thing I'm sure Wes would be glad to do for us is we just let everybody make their own calendar.
Good choice, right?
Let everybody pick when they want their 6th.
Well, I had,
No, Wes is right
oh,
there.
he's right here. Well, I heard from a few in the secretarial pool, and what they had told me was that they would much rather have it at spring break than at 4th of July. So I said I would share, and I shared.
Okay. All right.
Speaking for
Teacher
myself.
reps, I don't know, did you guys get any feedback from anybody on this topic?
Not on this one.
Very brief. It was, the comment that I had here was saying that they would like the spring break. That was the one actual comment that was made. The survey responses showed that they were okay with, 81% of the people were okay with the calendar option that we were presented for the 260-day staff, and then 18% no. So it was overwhelmingly yes, but then there was the comment that said the same thing that I'm hearing from a few of the others.
It's a pretty healthy stretch too. I would lean to keeping spring break personally because that's a long stretch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Between holidays
with
with Memorial Day or whatever and
Yeah.
what precedes the spring break.
March is going to be a very long month.
Of course, they wouldn't have the whole week of spring break, they would have the 2 or 5, 3 days or whatever, yeah. Whichever, however many days they choose to put there.
Yeah.
Well, we have that extra one
Oh,
that
the
said
extra
we
day
have too,
then.
so you
Yeah.
could put 3
Well,
days
Of
there,
course, you could
really.
do July 5th, so that way, because you'll be up late for July 4th, but then they're coming back on a Friday as a single day, and then you could have another 2
There would be, if we kept the 5th, there would be 2 additional
So
remaining.
then you could put those as spring break?
Let's kind of do this from process of elimination. Is everybody in agreement that everybody wanted the 26th, 27th, 28th of December? Was there anybody who said, no, I don't want the full week at Christmas? Okay, so we've got three that we're solid on. And the 21st of November is I mean, that just is what it is. It doesn't count in the 6th anyway. So the question would be 5th and 6th of July and 1 day at spring break, or one of those days and 2 at spring break, or neither and 3.
I would say 3 at spring break if we're gonna do any at spring break.
Okay, thoughts?
That's what
comments?
I would say. I mean, I don't work with clerical, but I work with clerical, and I know that that's something that they've talked about a lot.
Yeah, the other thing to keep in mind for all the employees in this group that we're talking about, they all have vacation, that if, whatever we set, like if the camps obviously are a little divided, if we set it in spring break and they say, well, I'd really like to be off over the 4th of July weekend, they can do that, they can take vacation. So,
But does somebody have to be in the office? Like at Lafayette, they're all about the same number of years there, so they're like, how do we decide that?
well.
Is that a
you're-
principal decision?
That would be a principal decision, yeah.
They asked me that, so there's an answer.
Okay.
So Julie, what do you think? Your people that responded, do you think they would want the days at spring break or in July?
She was saying 10 had voted for spring break and 4 had voted for around the 4th.
So it sounds like spring break.
Majority sounds like spring break.
Melissa, did you have something?
No,
Or you were just
yeah,
exercising your wrist?
I'm just, yeah, sorry.
You just have to recognize norms.
Okay,
So the November 21st, you said that one.
November
was just kind of a
21st
gimme?
does not count as one of the 6.
Okay,
So there will be 6 in addition to that. That's a paid day off for all 12-month staff.
okay.
All right, so can we narrow it down to voting between having 3 days at spring break or 2 in July and 1 at spring break? Make those the 2 options, or is there a third option we should consider? Okay, so I'm going to ask you to vote whether you think the 12-month calendar should contain March 20th, 21st, and 22nd as paid holidays, along with the 26th, 27th, and 8th of December, or if we should have July 5th and 6th and March 22nd.
Does this affect payroll, them getting payroll ready in any
Does this
way?
affect payroll West?
Is that
Getting it ready?
payroll?
On both
sides?
But that's only 3 people.
So which would be better from payroll purposes?
For
Not
us
doing this.
not to have a spring break.
Oh, no.
Not an option.
Sorry, Wes.
For 1 day would be okay, but I mean, 3 days in that week is really gonna,
We used to have off the whole week.
not the business
I know.
office. Business office always came in and worked. See, that's what people don't understand. The business office always, when everybody else is getting off early or leaving, whatever, the business office is still working because we still gotta get payroll done and pay the bills and, so anyway.
Shall we make those our 2 options? Okay, so I'm going to ask you to vote between, like I said, the 26th, 27th, and 8th of December, we've already decided, those are there. So between the 20th, 21st, 22nd of March would be one option, or the 22nd of March and the 5th and 6th of July. Does this need to be a secret ballot, or are you okay with raising your hand? Okay. All of those who would vote to have the other 3 days be allotted on March 20th, 21st, and 22nd, please raise your hand. There are 13 of you who are voting members. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay. All right, so we will, the official proposal then from this group, and again, I know I say this every month, and I'm sure you get sick of hearing it, but I'm going to repeat it again. Remember, we're an advisory type of group. What we will recommend will go on to the meet and confer team. and they will then take that as their, take that into consideration when they're doing the discussions, okay? All right, so we will pass on to the meet and confer team that the spring break for 12-month people should be the 20th, 21st, 22nd. The other 3 paid work days would be the 26th, 27th, 28th of December. All right, any other comments on this before we move on? Okay, the 9-month calendar. I want to talk just a little bit about examples 5 and 6. We had seen 1 through 4 before, and then we'll get into the meat of this. Example 5 is different from the others in that there is one less student contact day than the previous 4. All the first 4 examples had 170 student days, 181 teacher days. This one has 169 student days and 181 teacher, and the difference was that 1 contact day was taken from second semester and a PD day was added in the first week, or the first week back in August there. It would have been the August 10th would be the actual day. It moved the start date back from the 10th to the 9th. Example 6 is exactly like example 4 with the addition of another PD day, and that it left the student contact days at 170 and pushed the teacher contract days to 182. Okay, so that's the difference in 5 and 6. 5 took away a student contact day, added back a PD day. 6 added a PD day and left the same number of student contact days, which had the effect of raising the total contract from 181 to 182. Okay. Anybody have any questions about what's there? Okay.
Extra copy of 6.
An extra copy of 6?
Yes.
No, I've got just you didn't get a 6?
This one's the one that he sent out.
All right. General comments from anyone who wants to start. What are you favoring and why? Or what are some of the strengths and weaknesses that you're looking at?
Well, things that we know are always going to be the back and forth that we get from no matter what group we're in are the January PD and start day back in January, the start day in August, whether it's on a Monday or later in the week, and then the end of the school. That's kind of a challenge to obviously organize and work through. And with our original 4, it was very high. Based on the 4 different options that we had, it was my polling gave over 45%, 43%. Said option 4. And I did not send out option 5 or 6 because it came so late, and I didn't want to screw up the polling for the rest of it. But looking at option 4 and then option 5 and 6, option 6 actually seems to, option 5 seems to actually address the starting of school student day. It addresses the ending school so that the students aren't coming back on a Monday, and it addresses the PD day in January, and it puts that PD day on Monday, and then students start on Tuesday. So that option 5 seemed to really address a lot of the concerns that the people who I polled, my members, had in regards to all those different areas. So it seemed to be a pretty good option that you came up with after that.
Okay. What'd you ladies hear?
Our members, a majority as their top choice picked option 3, but followed closely at a second by option 2. So and we did include option 5 in our survey. We did not include option 6 because it had already been sent out. And but option 3 was the winner as the top choice by about 11%. But then the second choice, option 2, is what people mostly picked as their second choice. We had a lot of comments about we don't want to start school on a Monday. We don't necessarily want to end school on a Monday either because attendance would be dismal, most likely. That's what our members had to say.
Okay. Let's see. Julie?
For those of us that work summer school, option number 2, June 13th is the last day of summer school. Some of the other choices, well, one doesn't, but some of the other ones get late into June 20th, I think, and so that was kind of a drawback for us,
Yep.
you know. 2 was good.
Okay. I do want to say on the summer school stuff, I think I told you last time, I just pulled those out of the air. The goddess of summer school is here, I believe. That would be.
Where's your crown?
Where's your crown? In your thinking, kind of leave summer school out of the equation because that's not my boat. Okay.
But it pretty much goes in line
Well,
with
yeah. I mean,
when our
obviously,
calendar ends.
whenever the calendar ends, you can pretty much predict when summer school is going to start and those kinds of things. What are you guys thinking about option 6? Adding the, we had talked about, and I know it was important to the board members to get back to 170 student contact days, and we talked about that when we made last year's calendar, in fact, as I remember. And then I also had extensive discussions with Dr. Williams and Dr. Norman, and also had a lot of feedback from teachers that they felt good about the way PD went this year. Is that still accurate for the most part? So they're both very important. Obviously, the amount of time we spend with our kids and the amount of time we have to devote to professional development. How significant an issue would adding one day be to you guys?
The only feedback I got from my work group was, will it be reflected in pay?
Yep.
Because it adds a contract day.
Option 6 also has us ending on a Monday, and our members resoundingly were not in favor of ending school on a Monday because of the impact on attendance.
I didn't have a single person that liked 6.
We
Didn't
had,
say that about option 1 through 5. 6 was nobody, and I did send it out to all my.
we could consider rather than ending on a Monday, on that Friday, have it go from like 8 to 8.
Oh, dear God.
Somebody retired, so.
That'd be a good way to end the year, wouldn't it? Have a sleepover.
We almost did that last year in December.
Some people did that last year.
Semester.
As a high
Okay,
school teacher,
um,
I strongly disagree.
We do have our mini board is here, as always. Mini board, do you have any comments that you would like to make on terms of the calendar?
Student contact days are really important to me. And I know that when we went through this last year, we actually were down 2 days. But when we made that assumption because of Eclipsomania, we said that we were going to make it a focus that we were going to get back those days for the kids. So I guess I always go back to that we're here to educate kids, and that's a goal. And I know that in past we've varied from up to 189 days in a contract. So I know in the past there's been that variance, but I understand the PD. I understand that because I know that if you're not equipped to go into the classroom and have what you need to be able to take care of kids, then the kids ultimately hurt. I understand that, so I understand both sides of it, but I just hate losing another contact day.
Well, I hate losing a contact day. I will come at that from another area. What happens in PD at the beginning of the year can make an impact on instruction all year long. And had we not had the fabulous PD that we had, I attended some of it this summer before school started, and it was good. And I've heard lots of good comments, and finally we have some great PD. And so what that teacher uses or learns that day in PD is going to impact the entire classroom or the entire year every day. If we add teacher day or student day, then it shouldn't be at the end of the year, because that would be the most wasted day. The most wasted day, for 26 years, the last day of school is not productive academically. If we're really truly wanting to protect that academic day for our students, then we need to add it in January or even at the beginning of the school year. Because when you just tack it on to the end of the school year, that's not a productive day. So if I had to pick on if we went back to 170 student days by just tacking it on at the end of the calendar versus giving 169 student days but giving us an extra day of PD to do something that could impact learning all year long, I would go with calendar 5. That's just my personal opinion, but I had to weigh really how much education, how much academically is going to be done on that extra student day. And if you don't put it somewhere where it can make a difference, like take a day off of spring break and get an extra day of prepping kids before testing, or if you don't put it in January, take an extra day off of Christmas break and do it in January when you're getting back in and digging in and starting the second part of the year, that's where you're going to make a difference academically. Not tagging it on at the end of the year, which I am thinking, that's how I perceive calendar 6. So, yeah, I'd love for, shall we have, I remember the days of 189-day contracts, and so, putting that extra day in there. But when we do that too, we talked about the cost of that is like $550,000.
Yeah.
And that included everybody. What about just for support staff that day? If we made it a part of teacher contracts, don't shoot me daggers, but just, and the cost of the support staff for that day would be significant. And you know what, people, we can't add any, we can't be putting that on there. We have to deal with our finances as they are today. And we can't afford that. We can't. So, not be fiscally responsible, so. But I would just wonder, could you figure what that would be for, because we would have to pay our hourly people that extra day. Our at-will employees would have to be paid that day. Our teachers, it could go under their contract, the number of contract days we offer.
Wes, I came up with that figure by taking 1/181st of 75 million.
You're gonna have about 400 staff that are already gonna be working. So it wouldn't be that much.
So take 12-month staff out of there.
Yeah, you gotta take all the 12-month out,
350,000, somewhere in there.
approximately.
That's a ballpark.
How much?
350,000, probably, give or take 20.
And that's just for at-will.
No, that would
That would
the
include
the
teachers as
12-month
well.
staff are already being compensated for those
Right.
days. So that would be the teaching staff
Okay.
and the 9-month classified staff.
Because you would basically be in essence adding that extra day to contracts, not compensation for the extra day.
Okay, say that again.
Are you talking about adding in the benefits as well? Or is it just the 300?
If you're adding, go ahead.
It costs about 75 million for salaries for 181-day contracts. And that's everybody included. So if you add one more day, you would take that 175 million divided by 181, and then that would give you your daily cost to add another day, roughly. Yeah. Eric, you said you had not sent out you sent it out in a timely manner and weren't waiting for my last iterations. You seemed, just from your perspective, to think that 5 would be fairly palatable to your membership. Is that?
I would say that, and I say that because of the written comments that I received from so many people, and those comments addressed the January, the ending school, the starting school, and also wanting 10 days of Christmas break. So it addressed all of those things, and that calendar just seemed, based on those anecdotal comments, that would suffice, that would meet those needs. Otherwise, calendar 4 is still, in my perspective, a viable option, and to be quite honest, some of the others are also viable options.
Oh, yeah.
So
We
all
don't
of the
put out
varieties
much
I'm seeing. You didn't put out anything early that was, not too palatable. So I think that there's a lot of good discussion that we can have on this.
What do you guys think about, based on the comments you got from your membership, what would they think of number 5?
We had some people say they didn't like number 5, but I think a lot of it was misunderstanding that Christmas break
Right.
doesn't really start on Christmas Eve. They saw Christmas break starts on Christmas
Yeah.
Eve. Oh my gosh, they didn't stop and
You
think
actually
Christmas
get
Eve
2
is on a
extra days.
Monday.
Right.
So you're really getting that whole weekend and we're getting off on Friday. I really think that was the majority of the comments we got about that were that I don't wanna wait till then to start Christmas
Right.
break. I just don't think they really looked and noticed that, well, that's on a Monday, and so I really think I would suggest that we maybe narrow it down to a couple and we have some time to take back. These are the 2 options United are considering, not 6, now 2. Of these 2, which one would you be the happiest with? I think that would be fair to our staff. So that would be our,
They had a lot of different
Recommendations.
choices to have to look at.
and we tried to make it as easy, I created a table to try to make it a side-by-side comparison as I could, but it's just a lot of information, so I think if our group could come to a consensus on these are our top 2, and then we take those back, I think that would be the best option.
Okay. A number of the rest of you I haven't heard from. I mean, this primarily affects the teaching staff, but also the classified in some ways. Any comments from anybody who hasn't given their opinion yet?
Can I ask this, throw this out to the teacher groups? We had visited in our mini group about, okay, you have 2 teacher work days on the 9th and the 15th of August. I'm looking at example 5. That's where we added in that extra PD that Dr. Williams asked us for in order to be able to do what she wants to do for PD for the beginning of the year. And so if we took one of those teacher work days and made that a PD and only gave you 1 teacher work day, because I didn't think you'd had any teacher work days prior to this year, but you had had them in the past.
You theoretically had a day because it worked in a half a day here and a half a day there.
Right.
Personally, I mean,
You think what, Paul?
I think they need to.
I think
I
they
would say
appreciate
it's
it
not-
having
just-
to.
I was gonna say, it's
I mean-
not going to go over well to say that we're
No.
taking one
No.
away. And the only way I could ever see it even being a remote possibility is that we had some kind of guarantee in place that nothing would get put on that day. Not, now we have to do your intruder training, now we have to do like,
Building meetings.
absolutely nothing.
Saying if there were just one.
And we were so rushed.
Yeah, that's the only way I could see
And
And
anyone
that's
ever being okay
what we
with
talked about
it.
last time, that was the biggest issue, was that they had those work days, but then other meetings had to fall on those days based on the logistics of how things
Yeah.
work. And it
This
was
year-
really not in essence an actual work day for teachers.
Right.
Hopefully
And I
this
think
year
that
was
there
an
was an
outlier
issue.
because there was so much new information to divulge, you know, the attendance policies and stuff like,
Right.
hopefully that's gonna be streamlined so we don't interfere with
Well,
their
and I
2
think
days,
you
cause we
have to-
did, we had, at Central, we had to pull them in for
Right.
emergency intruder training and stuff.
Right.
It's not fair.
The
I mean, I got the
caveat-
reply that I thought I would get, but I just want to throw that out there because that was part of a conversation. So I know that you want to protect those
So
2
I
work
think
days.
that you want those work days before you have open houses.
Which
Well,
will,
Because really-
another problem.
and see, right now, the second one isn't probably, because the second one is on the 15th on any calendar, I think. And I was saying we should probably move that back to Monday or whatever, but I don't know if that's a discussion for this time or not. That's Dr.
And
Krause's
then
call.
with that one, I don't even know if that, I kind of like the idea, and the people that I've discussed it with, kind of like the idea of having one of those days before the first day of school. So you can actually prep all the stuff that you're gonna do the first day.
So you're saying the 15th is a good
So having
day?
that one work day right before the school starts is a good idea.
we would like that too.
But also having that first work day right the first day back, because then,
Resounding, we heard
Yes.
from our members that was a
And I-
wonderful way to
I
come
would
back
like-
this year.
I like it too for you guys, cause if you have questions about something in your room,
Right,
it
of
gets
course.
something that first day,
Right.
kinda gets everyone
You've got
running
time to
before,
fix
before we're
whatever.
just running into
And as-
meetings and pictures.
And you pretty much have your class list by that point, so you know if chairs are an issue, you know all of those things.
You know, we can start
And
working on that
also,
stuff.
sometimes it's okay, not necessarily, I think if it's after open house, cause then if they've brought supplies, you have some time to get them kind of situated where you want them. Some schools wait until the night before school to have their open house anyway, so it may be before their open house still,
Anyway,
so.
something, this year we had some that.
Yeah, I think it's very doable to have it.
So 5 looks like a really good option.
And so what I
It doesn't
heard
leave
from,
any cliffhangers.
what I heard from this discussion was that it works okay to have the very first pre-service day and the very last pre-service day be the work days? Is that?
Yeah.
Our people really liked that this year,
Okay.
with the
One
exception.
thing I would like to throw in there, and Dr. Williams, if I misspeak, correct me. Because of the need to utilize the police force for the active shooter training, we are a little bit bound by when they can get to us, and obviously they can't go to every building on the same day. So the caveat that I would like to put on both of those work days is that on one of the two, you would have your building in active shooter training, which for the booster shot, so to speak, is what, only a half hour, 45 minutes, something like that?
Well, if you have to travel, it's more than that.
As long as that's the only thing.
Yeah.
And that
And I
has to
think
be
if that's a
communicated.
scheduled thing.
Oh, right, gosh, I am so
The
sorry.
problem I think that arose this year was it was scheduled for then and then that got changed and so nobody really knew when it was supposed to be. And then it got combined into other buildings and so it wasn't scheduled very well.
Dr. Kraus, can I modify that just a little bit?
Absolutely.
So maybe it's just a 2-hour block of time during one of those days, there will be training. So for example, Paul's building might have intruder training on the 10th. But then his building could use that, a 2-hour block of time for what Melissa's building was doing on the 10th at that time. They could do that training, because if not, it'll be, my building gets both work days as work days and my intruder training's on one of those PD days. Does that make
So
sense?
it's not equitable.
Does make sense.
Exactly, so that it just doesn't tie us, so that we can get everything into all of our buildings.
May I, am I allowed to?
Well, let's take a vote. Is it okay if Dr. Williams says something too?
I don't want to break the rule.
Go for it. We
The
voted
only
you
thing
in.
that I'm thinking of, Dr. Haynes is the person who coordinates all of the intruder training drills with the police force. And we did have some issues coming out of that this year. And so one thing that we are considering is bigger group training sessions,
Yes.
That's what I was
which
gonna
would
ask.
eliminate so many sessions for the police to have to manage.
I was gonna ask that same question.
So if we did that, we could probably work it into those 2 work days, but it would take a longer block of time for the travel. Because some people would have to travel to, I'm thinking probably feeder patterns is in my head a natural. So I don't know if that's a middle school feeder or if it's a high school feeder or some combination thereof where we would have, a few trainings on one work day and a few trainings on the other work day, but all staff would come together. There are benefits to having intruder training in your own building. There are also benefits to not having the police do the intruder training at every single building in terms of our scheduling. So
Is that, in the past, it's always been a part of our professional development though. It wasn't ever, it was just a part of your building professional development during that day. So does it necessarily, if it's scheduled in that manner, does it necessarily even have to be a part of that workday?
Right, that's, if you're combining sites, I would think, I agree, I was gonna ask that same question, it's always been part of our PD before. So if we're lessening the sites, I would think there would be room for it in one of those 3 days.
So was it included, are you talking before it was statutory in terms of requirement? Or, because we've done intruder training before the state legislature made it a mandatory requirement for all schools.
Last year, it was a part of our building PD day.
Mm-hmm.
It was never, it was.
But I think it
this was
wasn't
the
for
first-
everyone,
Okay.
because of the number of sites. That was one of the concerns I think we've heard, is that some buildings didn't have it on their PD day. Am I incorrect in that thinking?
No,
You're
I
right.
don't have the schedule in front of me, so I think that was one of the concerns that we were trying
And
to.
maybe at the secondary level, it kind of worked out. Because I know in my buildings, it's always been a part of the actual building PD days.
Would it be an option to, because it wasn't at every site this year, so I don't know that that's necessarily something to get hung up on, is that it has to be at every site. Could it be recorded? Because then if our SROs record it and it's on somewhere where we can access it, it could be lumped into your building staff meeting or somehow in your building PD, and it's accessible to everybody at the same time.
accessible
I don't
as
have
part
a
of the
problem with that.
compliance plan.
If the police don't have a problem with that.
I mean, because they were all giving the same PowerPoint anyway,
Right.
so I think they could join forces and create a video. I would think they would appreciate not having to give it multiple times as well.
Well, I don't even know that a video is necessary because it's not, I don't know in our intruder training that he did anything other than read us the PowerPoint.
Kyla, I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, in our building, in our intruder training, I don't think the officer did anything besides read the PowerPoint, so I don't even know if there needs to be a video.
I mean, unless,
Yeah,
but I
ours
didn't go to
did,
the bigger intruder training where they kind of did some other things.
Well, I stopped in, where was it, at Hickett while they were doing intruder training, and the SRO was doing quite a bit of stuff with them. So I think, yeah, I think it is different depending
I was gonna
upon.
say, I think different officers do different things.
And that's where if you joined forces, they could kind of,
Be more consistent.
yeah.
And you could have all of them being a part of one video versus, you know, each of them going in different areas, because you do get a very different training, because I know all those officers and every last one of them have different personalities.
So part of the compliance, is it that they have to participate, or is it that they have to be able to have?
It's all staff, according to the statute, and I don't have it memorized, but it says all staff must receive, and then it outlines a certain number of minutes for new staff, and then annual training thereafter, that is a certain amount. It sticks in my mind that the new teacher and new staff training is much longer, and then I think it's an hour refresher annually. I can pull up the statute.
And that was the other thing we talked about last time too, was that that took away from the new staff
Right.
being able to be in our buildings on that very first day, not the teacher work day, but the first day that we had our building PDs, because they were all out of intruder training, so they didn't get the opportunity to come in and meet all of the people in their buildings and things like that.
So-
And then ours sat through the refresher
Yeah.
at the same
After
time,
they-
right after they
after
just
they
had
have
the
their-
If it's on the
refresher.
PD, yeah.
So Dr. Williams and or Dr. Norman, when do you guys envision the new teacher active shooter training being? Is that gonna be part of the new teacher institute, or do you see that being part of the pre-service PD?
Not 100% certain yet. The reason it was moved off of new teacher training this year was because the previous year, there was a lot of feedback from that new teacher group that it was a very heavy and burdensome topic in your first days in the district. So it was not a hearty welcome to St. Joseph. Here is your intruder training.
We'll do it on the third day or whatever.
That's our last
Do you want
thing.
people that
Your
can't
ticket
handle
out
that
the
though?
door.
So do you want people that in the building to have free lockdown?
Well, that's
I was gonna say.
Okay.
I think, because they have to have a longer and more specific, it should be done during their institute, and then they don't redo it with the staff and, and then they're in their buildings when they need to be in their building with their staff, which we've been screaming for 2 years.
Okay. I'd like to try to, so we don't really get out of here at 9, I'd like to try to focus this back to, I like the idea of having a couple of options to take back to people to survey again. How many of you would be in favor of making sure that one of those options includes 5 pre-service days as opposed to 4? Raise your hand if you would be in favor of one of those options. That would be either 5 or 6.
Can I ask a question about that
Absolutely,
before?
Lori.
Just looking at option 5 pre-service days. And this, I guess, is probably a question for Dr. Williams. What if, because one of those pre-service days are usually departmental PD. What if that departmental PD was moved to like the end of the first full week of school or into that second week of school, then bump up your start day in 1 day? It always frustrated me to sit in building in departmental PD and we're going all over all this good stuff, but I didn't know how that was gonna apply into my classroom. I hadn't had kids yet.
But I think that that's different for our department.
It is.
Because our department, that's where we get all of our updates, that's where we get all of our stuff that prepares us
Okay.
for the school year.
I think that came
So
up, that was
would
part of the
be
topic
kind
one
of
other
a
time.
herky-jerky for
Last month.
elementary
Yeah.
would be a very
All right.
herky-jerky start. Like, we have them, we don't. Like, it would be really hard.
Start, stop, start, stop.
Yes.
Well,
that would
I
be-
mean, I get it, I get it.
you
Yeah.
ease them into it, you go 3 days this week and 4 days next. Okay, never mind, I didn't think about that part. Scratch that. Yes, I'll vote for 5 days.
Okay.
She talked herself into
We
it.
would consider it if our
Show
members
of,
support it.
show of hands real quickly, how many of you would be in favor of one of the two options being a 5 pre-service day option?
One of
Please
the
raise your
options,
hand.
sure.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, the majority. Now, there are two options that have 5 pre-service days, example 5 and example 6. The difference in those is there's one additional student contact day and one additional teacher day in example 6. I would like for you to vote for either example 5 or example 6. Do you want to do this on paper, or are we okay with hands? Okay. All those who would be in favor of example 5 being passed along, that's 169 student, 181 teacher. Raise your hand. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, that's the majority. All right, so we know one of the two is going to be example 5. All right, now, of the first 4, I did not hear either group express any strong preference for example 1. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, can we eliminate example 1? Okay, it has been executed. Now, you guys, Eric, if I remember you saying correctly, you said example 4 was the top vote getter, and for you guys, it was example 3 by about 11%.
With 2 being pretty close.
2 being next. Okay. Do you remember, or what in your mind differentiates 3 from 2? Why was 3 more popular, do you think, or based on the comments you got?
Yes.
9 days of Christmas, 10 days of Christmas.
It appears
I do know. The 3 people liked 3 over 2 because on option 2, the kids come back on a Friday, and it's kind of that same thought of ending on a Monday. Are they gonna show up for one day when they could had a whole another weekend? So that was in the comments. That was the reason 3 won out over 2 ultimately.
And we talked about that a lot last year too.
Okay.
That makes sense.
So in your minds, is example 3 still your top pick?
Of those 2,
Of those
yes.
2?
Of those two,
Okay. Would anyone be opposed to eliminating example 2 from consideration?
I didn't have anyone in favor of 2.
Okay. Now we're down to 3 and 4. Just glancing at them, the main difference appears to be January. In example 3, there's a PD workday on Friday, and that's moved to Monday. And what the effect that has at the end of the year is in example 3, school ends on a Friday. In example 4, school ends on a Monday.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And ending on a Monday was not what people wanted.
Right.
So
And the other difference there that I see is that the option 3, school starts on the 15th, and in option 4, school starts on the 16th. So those are the 3 big differences. And I understand, like, it's kind of a mix between the 2. Because,
I would say 5 is similar enough to 4.
yeah.
I mean, they're pretty similar, comparing
But
them
it
side by
take-
side.
and the good
Minus
news, it takes
the
away that last
yes,
day.
I was gonna say minus the end date, which is actually fixed in option 5. So if everyone else would support it, I would say 3 and 5 are more different than 4 and 5. 4 and 5 are essentially the same thing with one day change, basically. So if you're wanting different options, you would go with 3 and
does
5.
have the PD on Friday, yes, and a lot of people, I think that's why a lot of people, many people did not enjoy that,
Yeah.
because that they don't like. But, I think I'd be considerate of putting option 3 against option 5.
Yeah, if that gives them 2 options
And
that are
2
different.
different enough
Yes,
options.
yes.
All right. Is anyone opposed to moving 3 and 5 forward for further consideration and dropping 4 out of the running? Speak now or forever hold your peace. It will be recorded for all time. Okay, we'll move 3 and 5 on then for consideration to the meet and confer team. Teachers, if it's possible, I would like to meet with you guys for about 5 minutes after we're done, so that I think we need to at least have a preliminary discussion about when we want to do the first meet and confer meeting, because we've got some time constraints. since any calendar we're considering is, what is it, 10 days before what's the rule, Dr. Newhart?
If the start of school is 10 days more than the first Monday in September, you have to have a public hearing. And that has to be posted for 10 days prior to the public hearing.
So our hope is to have gone through the meet and confer on the calendar, take it initially to the board on the first October meeting, again to the board on the second October meeting, and then they'd have that public hearing, the first meeting in November. November 13th to actually finalize. Okay. Can the four of you meet for a few minutes when we're done? Okay,
Dr.
great.
Kraus, before we move off the calendar, can we remove the summer school dates since they're not,
I
Yeah.
think that would
that
be
way that
beneficial.
doesn't come into the
Okay,
decision-making process with
idea.
people?
And I can't remember, and just from last year, you guys remind me, the last day of December, that we're there in December, whether it's the 21st or whatever, is that a half day? Has that always been a half day?
It was last year.
It was last
And it is this year as
It is
well.
this year, but are we going away? It
No,
doesn't
we're
say.
just doing
We're
the
doing
way
away
with
with
half
half
days.
days.
It always was half day because it was the end of finals in high school, and
No,
that's kind of the day.
Yeah,
that-
we're.
So the last day of
half day.
school is
Not
also a full day?
Whatever, according to,
I'm
I'm
just
just
verifying.
checking.
That's a good point.
Yeah, because we
I
have
was
too
gonna say, our
much.
people, I can tell you, just assumed that end of semester and end of year are
Don't
early
assume.
out days.
Don't assume.
I'm just telling you
I've
that.
learned
And our big
Make
thing
that
is,
clear.
it's too much confusion for our classified staff. Who's supposed to be there and work, who isn't, who's getting paid, who isn't. We're done with that headache. Everybody's there all day, then we don't have that's been a huge, oh, man.
And I think we tried to move away from half-days last year.
Yeah.
I think that was a baby step, and so for next year.
Yeah,
it
for
would
next
be-
year, we're going to full days,
good.
no half days. And I'm pretty comfortable speaking on behalf of the board on that issue, because it causes too much trouble.
I just saw it, though, we can clarify.
Yeah.
Okay, next item on the agenda, if I can find it in this mess. We talked last time about considering changes to the AP wording, with possibly adding a classified staff person to the meet and confer team. One of the first things I want to do, I believe, and I sent out so many things I can't really remember what I did and didn't, but I think I sent everyone a version of the administrative procedure for GCQD, that every time negotiations showed up, it was marked through and meet and confer put in there. And I want to apologize in advance. I know I've said negotiation for so many years because it's a different animal in Kansas. So if I say that, what I'm meaning is meet and confer. I think meet and confer is truly the appropriate term for what happens in this state. Is that, would you agree?
But what happens in this situation?
In this district, in this
Well,
situation?
the court case, the only thing that governs anything about
Yeah,
meet and
is-
confer
is-
is the
is
independence
case law.
court case, and it says meet and confer the word negotiation, because there's no state statute.
Right, there's no
So,
statute that is-
yeah, the only thing that says anything, that anything has to take place at all is that independence court case, am I right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Versus NEA, and that is a meet and confer, so we have to quit using that word negotiation, because it's not a negotiation, it's a meet and confer.
Okay, so first question, does anyone have any issue with that change?
Yes.
That's okay?
I have
No
no
problem.
issue with this change because in our GCQD policy, I believe it says meet and confer as well. This is just a congruent to that.
Right.
That's what this is. This
We're
is
just
meet
kind of
and
cleaning
confer.
it up.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that was easy.
High fives, everybody.
All right, the next easier part, I think, will be, if you look at the very last paragraph, it says superintendent dialogue. Dr. Newhart talked with for those of you who weren't in the superintendent's dialogue, those who deciding you ought to come. It's an open meeting, everyone can be there. Dr. Newhart recommended some changes to the teacher group, and I think, does this accurately portray what you had wanted to change, Dr. Newhart?
I believe so, coming out of that meeting we had, yes.
Okay. So I would entertain any discussion about that from anyone. Don't all
I
talk
guess
at
my
once.
question would be, is it still necessary for a superintendent dialogue now that we have United SJSD?
Yes.
What do you think? Is it still a
Yes.
necessary thing?
They're very different
Yeah.
in the things that are discussed
Okay, so we want to keep superintendent dialogue, and well, this wouldn't apply to very many of you. Any of you who are not teachers have any problems with wording? Okay, teachers, what do you think?
I have no concerns with this wording.
Okay. All right. This is easy.
Wait a minute.
Somebody
Wait,
hit the
wait,
easy
wait,
button.
you're-
Yeah.
we're not quite done.
We're not quite done?
I feel like it should say all parties have the right when called upon. We shouldn't have to take a vote. It should be, that way if NEA wants to bring someone to the table, we can't just say no because, oh, we don't want to be nice today or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, we shouldn't have to have a majority. It should be any party should be able to call someone to the table to provide testimony. I think to take out upon majority approval. I think if you want somebody to come speak to an issue, you should be able to do it. If we have somebody that we want to bring out,
Right,
that's
and
just
so
my
this
personal-
is speaking to us bringing somebody who is not one of the directors that are
Correct.
always there, like.
So
Or
you
it might
could,
even be
you
a
could bring
director.
someone that needed to speak, but if we
Gotcha.
didn't, if a majority of the people sitting at the table said, no, we don't want that person, your person couldn't speak.
Dr. Newhart, could you tell us what your thinking was when you put that in there?
Breaking tie is the superintendent's vote.
Right.
If both parties have two people at the table. And I think you'd want to leave that and reserve that right to the superintendent, based on whatever issues at hand. 99.9% of the time, I believe that you're going to be able to do that. But not knowing whatever issues before or what should be brought, I think you do need to reserve that right for the superintendent to, break the tie.
But I don't think they were talking about that. I think
I
they're talking about when you want to bring people for testimony, like when you brought directors in the last time, or if they want to bring a director, or maybe there's an NEA field rep or an MSTA field rep they want to bring in. That's the part I think they're talking about.
Yes.
Well, that's exactly what we're talking
Well, and
So it didn't have anything with the superintendent's vote. It's like, can they just assume that they can bring someone if it's legitimate to the conversation?
about.
Or am I?
Well,
But
that's
that
why I
person
went
wouldn't
ahead
be a
and put
voting
that vote in
member.
there.
Yeah, that
they're
person
not
wouldn't be
voting,
voting.
but
They're just bringing
then
testimony.
he's getting to determine
That's what I'm
essentially
saying.
If
who
we,
talks and
if
who
you-
doesn't,
if
and
we
I don't
don't
think that's
all
okay.
agree,
if we don't agree on it, then.
And I
If you
think-
don't agree on
That's
it,
right.
then it comes to the superintendent
I can't.
I-
to either allow it or not.
I understand.
Otherwise, if you guys agree upon it, you're gonna bring anybody you want to.
I understand that. I think, I'm gonna try to say this the right way. Historically, superintendent's dialogue was a chance for us to bring items to you from your greater staff up to, think of it as up, I don't know how else to describe it, up to the downtown central office, to you as a superintendent. It wasn't so much of things getting dictated down. I mean, yes, it's a conversation, so it's two-way, but I think saying, well, I get to decide who talks and who doesn't is going to not send the most positive message to your staff.
Well, only in time, Melissa.
I understand that, but again, this is a
You're
chance for
asking
us.
for no vote, period.
Correct. If we
Right.
want someone to speak, they get to speak. If you want someone to speak, they get to speak.
Well,
If they
I
want
thi-
someone to
I think
speak,
if that's the case, you don't need the superintendent dialogue, if you're just gonna be allowed to bring anybody you want to. Originally, this is my understanding, this was designed to be between the superintendent and representatives. And if that's the case, then don't even have the superintendent, I would agree with you then, Tammy. But I think that is in place for the ability that if you don't like something going on here or some other place, or that is not relevant to St. Joe United, it is a good forum to bring that up. But I just don't think you need to have carte blanche ability to at any whim or wish to, originally it was set up with, discretionary meeting between the superintendent and you as representatives. Again, if you're in agreement, you're gonna be able to bring anybody you want to.
So I guess I see that somewhat analogous to, in this setting, if the 12 voting members are 6-6, then the only time I vote is to break the tie. I kind of see it.
That's what I was thinking,
See
it's
it the same
paralleling
way.
that same organizational structure.
I don't have a concern with it because I understand after you're making those comments, I do understand that it is really the two of you and the two of ours that are those messengers that are then having the dialogue. So there may be a few times where we do need to bring somebody else in who has more expertise or knowledge.
Most of the time
I
it's
can't
on-
imagine
Most of the
that.
time it's on my end
That's-
where
that's-
I gotta
that's
bring
true.
that.
And so that is most of the time from your side. I can't see that being an issue.
I would hope not, I just don't want it to become an issue, because then,
If it were a constant, you know, 2-2 negative, I could see that being an issue, but I don't foresee that. But I understand your point, I really do. Because we don't want it to be restrictive of the things that we are trying to bring to the superintendent, but also we want to respect the process.
If you're mimicking it here, you
Yes.
know, just like when Dr. Williams wanted to speak, we had made that decision in the AP that it would be up to Dr. Kraus to allow people to speak and or take a vote. He said, you know, and that's the same thing you're doing here.
That's typically pretty informal vote, you know.
for the time being, let's just leave it alone.
So you okay trying it out as is? Okay. Now, the third element of change, potential change, is under the GCQD board recommendations. Oops, I forgot. I left in my negotiations. I should say meet and confer team.
Yeah, and it's even right there and underlined for you.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Here, you need my extra pair of glasses.
No, but I do need to get some real glasses. Okay. We have had discussions, it was brought up, I think, last May, just briefly, and we talked about it last meeting in August, about the possibility of adding a member of the classified staff onto the meet and confer team. Currently, well, you can read how it is currently, and then the addition that I would like us to consider is to say a classified staff member elected from the current membership of United SJSD to be added to the team. After last meeting, I emailed, or I told people that if you were interested, if you were a classified staff person and were interested in being considered for that potential, to let me know. And I did have 2 people express interest in that, and there may be more. I don't know. I haven't polled each classified staff person individually. So somebody tell me, I know you guys had some misgivings about possibly doing that. Somebody verbalize for us why you might not want to entertain that as a possibility.
My opinion is if they're going to be at the official meet and confer table, they need to be members of one of the 2 organizations. And if you have one, you need to have both. So it is a balanced representation. If there is no election in play, and we are coming to the table to be united, then we need balanced representation from the organizations. So
I
to
will
me,
do
if
that.
you're going to have one, you need to have 2, and they need to have a membership in each organization.
And this was a conversation all of us had right
Can I
after
ask
our
a
last
question?
meeting.
How many classified staff does NEA and MSTA have? Is the majority of the classified staff members of either of those organizations, or is it the majority of them don't belong to either? That if they don't belong to either, we really don't need them to be an MSTA member or an NEA member,
Well-
because they really represent all those that don't belong to either. They just need to be a part of this group.
That's true, but we also represent those teachers who are not members
Regardless
by
if
the
they're members or
organization.
not.
We're representing everybody
But I'm talking
through
about
the
how
negotiated
many,
meet
because
and confer.
a majority of our teachers belong to one or the other.
Right, and
No,
I,
yes.
Of
I mean,
teachers,
I can-
yes, you're
I
But
can-
not the majority of classified staff don't belong to one or the other.
I
I don't know, I'm
that.
asking,
I don't know
I'm
that answer
asking.
either.
I can speak to my building just because I know what's in my building. But I know overall our membership chair is still right now working on assimilating everything, so we don't have good numbers right now. It's, yeah, it's still coming in, so, I mean, I know.
I mean, a good estimate,
You know, in my building,
based on last year's
as,
membership, I
as
don't
far
have
as
to have it updated.
paraprofessionals,
And support, I mean, all of your support staff, which would be your peers, your whoever joins nutrition, or, you know, whoever.
So those sitting at the table, who belongs to, I don't wanna know which one, but do you belong to either one?
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
And a good portion of my building support staff belongs to.
To one or the other. That was my question.
I would not say that on our side. Nurses and social workers. I know after last meeting, there were a lot of social workers that, or a lot of nurses that joined a couple of, both organizations actually. But I know social workers, we have our own private, organizations that, but I do know that I personally.
I'd say it's pretty mixed.
Okay.
Some buildings are different, like, I mean, I can tell you at Pershing, there was hardly any, but at Central it's probably 50-50. I don't know, I think it's a building.
Building by building.
I
it's
really
a
do.
building by building, you know,
I really do
you've got
think-
different personalities in the buildings. You know, Tammy and I have a love-hate relationship back here in Truman. I stole a couple of her people, classified staff people away this year. So, you know, it's, huh?
I got a few others.
Let's not fight, children.
No. So,
But as a leadership, we were in agreement after our last meeting that if you're going to add a
Absolutely.
classified staff, it needs to be you need to have one from both organizations.
Yes.
But what if the people who volunteered are at the same organization? And the other ones
Or
didn't?
what if they aren't a part of either?
They need to be
Isn't.
part of United
Right.
SJSD.
Well, that was the that
Yeah.
was in the.
Right.
Yeah. So we'd have to have
requirement
What if they're
both,
part of neither?
one person from each,
Right.
from United, and that limits us to who we can, I mean, I
Talking
don't
about
know.
an elected member, so it's pretty much up to the body of people to pick who they want, regardless of their
This
membership.
group to pick up who you want.
But if you're trying to get two, that's what I'm saying is that, because I don't want to know
What's the goal
affiliations.
here, is to add a voice
A
or
voice.
multiple voices to the group?
Because I don't think that person is necessarily coming in as an MSTA rep or as an NEA rep.
No, they're
They
just-
are representing this group
Yes.
and only the classified staff. So their affiliation with either doesn't come into play.
And I think Lori and I's point to it was, we just wanted a classified staff
And I would agree with
as
that.
part of the negotiation team.
I think if
Meet
we're.
and confer.
Meet and confer team, woo, that's gonna take a while.
Yeah,
See,
and
not
I
just
just
you,
think
Dr.
for us to be
Krause.
on equal setting, equal footing, and that level playing field like we're always trying to get to. And again, we don't know who's affiliated with what, and if you have two volunteers, so if you're saying that you have to have one from each, then if the volunteers don't belong to two different organizations, then we're,
And you're gonna say no to.
yeah.
What we're trying to do is keep this congruent to the GCQD policy, which
Right.
recognizes MSTA and NEA as the partnership, the teachers
The
and
teachers'
the
organizations.
negotiating, the meet and confer committee. So those two organizations are identified as the meet and confer. And so I think that's where we're trying to keep this all through.
And, I mean, we also, not only are we looking out for our members, but we also have to look out for our organizations.
Dr.
In that
Newhart had
respect,
a comment.
To promote United SJSD, I think it'd be wise to keep it congruent. And go into the meet and confer meetings. If there was ever a vote to basically do away with the SAP and go to the HH or GCQD. Only the teachers then would be truly able to meet and confer.
And only one group if it went to that.
That is
If it went to
correct.
HH.
Right, if it went to HH.
Because then the support staff, they have no rights, I hate to say that, through policy or even statute to negotiate or meet and confer. So I don't really see a problem if it, right now, as you're taking baby steps forward, that you have equal representation and also then support staff is at least represented. And I think that's just as much as important here too, going forward. So, if, not knowing what Lori and Tammy are fully thinking here, but I think it's a good positive step to have the balanced approach.
And when you say the balanced approach, can you explain what that means?
Yeah.
Support staff from each.
From each, okay, that's what I was understanding, but I wanted to make sure.
But what if you don't have that in this membership?
Yeah, because it has to come
Right.
from United SJSD, because they're gonna be the ones who know, we can't educate a person that's not on this committee about what's going on by the time we get ready to go to meet and
Is there a
confer.
representative from support staff members here? Do we have somebody from NEA and somebody from MSDA? There is.
Well,
That would-
we've not asked them to
Okay,
self-identify.
so that side of it there is.
They'd have to
From this-
volunteer.
From this
This
table.
group, yes.
But then if they're not a member of either organization, then we've disqualified them.
Yeah.
That-
They
that's
can
no
join at
different
any
That's
time.
no different either as a teacher representatives, Lord.
That's true,
And,
that's true.
Well, the teacher representatives have already chosen a group that they're gonna be involved in.
Not all teachers
Not
belong.
Teachers belong.
Not all
to
teachers
those-
belong.
But the representatives here have made that choice. And, I mean,
If they're not a member of MST or NEA, they can't come.
they can't come.
So that's what they're.
But
that's
we're saying,
That's what
so
it's so
everybody's trying to
different.
But we're
say.
not saying that of the support staff.
I think problem can be solved,
Ultimately, I would
honestly,
agree with that.
because
They have coverage.
Would any of you four teachers be opposed to me asking the classified staff to go in there with me? I want to gauge their comfort level at saying in a public setting who they're associated with.
I would like for you to take them
You
out
guys
there.
okay with that? Come classifieds.
My friend, two of them.
Madam Foreman, have you reached a decision?
Not exactly 12 angry men.
Right here, Tammy made this change, remember, take these out, just discussed instead of.
That was one of our,
Okay. What we talked about in there, I asked them if they would be okay identifying if they were a member of either group, and if so, which one. We had 6 people, there were 2 unaffiliated, 2 NEA, and 2 MSTA, so it was
wow.
our next part of our discussion was whether or not those who were not a member of either would have their feelings irreparably damaged by not being considered to be a part of the meet and confer team. The agreement was, and if I misspeak for you, tell me, the agreement was that they just wanted a voice at the table, and so that if getting equal membership, one from MSTA and one from NEA, would help that happen, they were okay with that. So, if we were to amend this wording to say, a committee of 4 teacher representatives, 2 SJNEA and 2 MSTA, and 2 classified staff members elected from the current membership of United SJSD, 1 MSTA, 1 NEA, would that be palatable to everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. The folks,
I'm sorry, I have a question. At that point, is the 7th, because I can't, whenever we originally wrote this up, it
Yeah, I was
to
kinda
bring
curious
somebody in.
about
So
that.
what, is that necessary?
I don't think
Is
it's
this-
even necessary.
That line that continues, and the reservation of a 5th or 6th or now 7th.
Now 7th.
Representative to be determined by the meet and confer team, is that necessary, do you think?
I don't think so.
Wasn't that to bring in maybe
I
a
think it
support staff or
was
something
to
if we
bring
thought
in,
we
yeah.
needed it due to the topic?
Yeah, it could be
But with-
adjusted based on the topic, so if it's something to do with admin,
Right.
we could pull in an admin rep that was, so.
Okay, so
I'm
we
just
could,
curious if it was necessary at this point.
I don't think so, as long as it wouldn't hurt the other people, like admin, like, is
Right.
it, if, now if you wanted to be picky, now they're not ever allowed a voice at the table, support staff and teachers are, so I think that's why it was never defined
But
before.
doesn't that, because they're still certified staff, so doesn't that still, isn't there still an ability for their concerns to go through their organization?
It is.
Yes.
If they join MSTA, because not all of them do that. A lot of them join their elementary and secondary principals and curriculum and whatever. You still have the same issue.
Paul, a good point was made here. If we add classified staff, are you in the administrative ranks going to feel like the redheaded stepchildren? That you've been left out of the
To the
process?
meet and confer?
In terms of having input into issues that affect your group?
No pressure.
No pressure.
I might have to take that to everybody. I mean, take that to people, but I don't know. I mean, I don't,
But he would be really the only choice if it had to be United.
to do the meet and confers. Yeah.
So then
I
can you
don't
leave
know
in
if that
that,
was brought up as
can
a
you leave
point
in that
to add
seventh
permanently,
person?
but to
No.
keep the 7, so that if we
So that
Like,
you
we're
can
just
actually
turning, are we
to
just
bring
turning
them
meet and
in.
confer into United SJSD?
I know that.
It's just gonna be, I mean, what are we turning it into? We're already
That
here.
would be wonderful.
That sounds to me like the best
Then we don't have to do things
option
twice.
would be to leave some flexibility and leave it to say a seventh.
Okay.
And that way, if we want to bring in an administrative representative or a director level person, that could still be facilitated then.
I think that's appropriate.
I agree.
Okay.
I would just hate to take it out.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Eric, would you read what you have written there that the paragraph will now say?
Well, I have, do you want me to read the whole paragraph?
Oh, starting with the second sentence, probably.
With circumstances.
Well, no, you got to go
Okay.
from the start.
Any topic that requires a board recommendation such as salary, benefits, or work academic calendar must be discussed officially by the meet and confer team, a committee of 4 teacher representatives, 2 SJNEA and 2 MSTA, 2 classified staff members elected from the current membership of United SJSD, 1 MSTA, 1 NEA, and the reservation of a 7th representative to be determined by the meet and confer team. To yada yada doesn't change.
Okay.
Oh, except did you take out does it say specific negotiation topics, or did he take that
He
out?
took that out already.
Okay, I'm
Specific
sorry, I have the
topics.
old copy, thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion on this? And then we'll vote. Well, yeah, we need to vote to change the language first. All those in favor of changing the language to what Eric just read, please raise your hand. Okay, good. Now, the next thing would be to determine who the classified representatives are going to be. Since I have some insider knowledge here, I'm thinking that the people who were interested in being considered were Amy and Kelly. Who represents whom here?
I'm MSTA.
MSTA, and your
NEA.
NEA, Amy? Okay, so I would say that they're probably going to win the election. All those in favor of having Amy and Kelly be the classified representatives, raise your hand. Opposed, same sign. Congratulations, you won. It was,
It
yeah.
wasn't there, you have no idea.
You didn't hear
You
the
know
yelling
the
and
jury's
screaming?
not fun sometimes.
We know.
Trust me, we know.
I was
We
about to
know.
call 911 there for a little bit. It got pretty tense.
Mr. Kraus,
Yes, sir.
I think you also need to vote approving the entire language of the document.
Oh, yeah, we didn't do that. My bad. So we also changed negotiations to meet and confer and made the changes to the paragraph about superintendent's dialogue. All those in favor of making the changes as stated, please raise your hand. All right, thank you.
And you'll email us that?
I
so
will
we can
email
all have a
this
clean copy?
hopefully tomorrow, but
No pressure.
by Monday for sure. Okay. Going back to the agenda, everybody okay going till 6-ish? We'll get out of here pretty soon. Well, Wes, go ahead. The open membership
He
slots.
just wants to go to 9:30.
I don't get to vote.
The open membership slots have pretty much been filled. For the transportation department, the alternate is Jana Roberts, and then Roy Swope is filling the alternate for the nutrition services.
We only had one person that was interested, so it is gonna be Stacy Kovac
And to be the alternate?
to be the alternate for my work group.
Stacy Kovac, is that an S-T-A-C-E-Y, just
It
Y?
is.
I-E,
I think
could
it's
be
IE. No, S-T-A-C-Y.
S-T-A-C-Y-K-O-V-A-C.
So does that fill all of them then?
There's some potential movement in the one that Amy's representing now. We may need to be shuffling that because of her changed position.
Oh, that's
But
right.
that's going to be a to be determined probably by next meeting.
So you have 30 days to get that decided.
Oh, that's right, because she's representing the
Well,
wrong
she
group
was
that
she
she
was
actually
pro
is.
last year, and now she's ISS, and those are two different support staff groups. And so I'm trying to figure out how best to. We decided last meeting that Amy was going to stay in some capacity, but I need to figure out where she's going to land for sure. She's flexible. She said she could do either.
Make it an easy landing.
Yeah.
We have to stick with
Okay,
it.
so that's open membership slots. I sent everybody, it says introduction of proposed additions to the extra duties salary schedule. If you remember, late in the year, last year, we talked about, a number of people brought from their various groups that, hey, teacher X does this, or employee Y does this, and they spend a lot of time, we really ought to consider it for being on the extra duty schedule. I sent, all of them that I received, I just made a PDF out of them and sent them all to you. I don't want to really begin the discussion of those at this point because quite honestly, in my mind, if we don't have a new revenue source, we're not going to be adding things. So I don't know that it pays to use our meeting time right now. But you do have them. There are quite a few of them. That'll give you time to peruse them. Hopefully, we will have a new revenue source and be able to look at doing a lot of good things for the district in terms of additional staff, additional programs, additional things on the salary schedules. So I just wanted you to have them. You can look through them at your leisure. One thing that I had on the agenda the first time and I forgot to put back were changes to GCQDA and GCDBA and GDBDA, which are the leave policies. And I had given them to you in a format where the changes were in red, and you said, well, that's really nice, except we don't have access to color copiers, so we can't tell where the changes are. So I sent them out again and put them in bold print and underlined them. Was that easier for you to find them? This is just more an FYI, so if people ask you, I want to make sure everybody knows what was changed. So on page 2, if you look at table 1, third column over where it says maximum yearly carryover accrual of EL days. Last year, that was 10, 11, and 12 because everybody had 2 use it or lose it days. We did away with the use it or lose it days entirely so that now, however many you get, if you don't use any of them, you carry them all over. Okay, so that's the change there. Any questions about that? All right, then on page 3, under EL allowed absences, the very first paragraph there is new wording. Any absence qualifying as EL will be assessed a minimum of an hour checked to the nearest quarter hour thereafter. Reasons under A through F will only require the signature of the immediate supervisor. And that just, last year during the infamous blackout days, which remember are the first 5 contract days, the last 5 contract days, and the day preceding or following a school holiday. Last year, all of those, no matter why you were gone, required double signatures. Okay. This year, anything that's in A through F, and this is the hardest thing I've been trying to get through to the principals yet. I'm still getting all kinds of forms I wouldn't need to. If you are gone in the first 5 days, the last 5 days prior to or after a holiday, if it's anything having to do with health, a doctor's appointment for you, for your child, for whoever, or it's a personal day, and you want to take a personal day, those do not any longer require a double signature. So I've been trying to reinforce that with the principals. In fact, I told them again today, didn't I, Paul? So, and I'm also looking for next year, a couple more of those that are in H through M that I'd like to bump over to that no second approval needed category.
It might be just a formatting thing, because just having conversations with people, just the way it's set up, it's just kind of, because you have those reasons, and I know it says that, it says A3, but I think maybe an easy formatting, reasons only requiring immediate supervisor approval, and you list them. And then reason, not even calling them A through F or
Putting
whatever.
them in like a.
Just saying, these only need supervisor approval, these need double approval, and just maybe a formatting thing might help
You
that.
know how sensitive I am about my format.
I know.
You don't want to make me sad.
We will gladly help you
Even
format
just
it if you'd like.
even just delineating, these are the items which require double approval and everything else goes.
Yeah, I really think a lot of it was a formatting thing, because even when we were looking at it, sometimes you're like, okay, wait a second, what does this fall under? Like, it's just the way it was kind of.
So if it was just in a table and you had
Yeah.
one signature, two signatures, and list below.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I-
And there's obviously
I
some
think that
room
might
for
be an
improvement
easy
there.
fix, because then you could send out that table really fast to admin and everybody, really, here you go, in a brief little snapshot.
Okay. I do want to point out letter F. This is new, and I think there've been probably 6 or 7 people have signed up to take advantage of this so far, and I anticipate that there will be quite a bit more. The reason that was put in there was to reward longevity, to give people an opportunity for those once-in-a-lifetime things that might come up. And remember, it's in every 5-year band, like once between years 11 and 15, 16 and 20, 21, 25, and so on. But somebody signed up for that, haven't they, Lori?
Yes, they have. Of course, the islands, I'm not sure exist anymore.
I know, I was gonna say.
Is she retiring? Isn't she retired at the end of the year? She shouldn't be allowed to do that.
I have a 1-year opportunity to do this.
Okay, the next change.
We need her to go on that vacation.
Yes, we do.
That actually,
I've heard that.
I think that actually covered them. Any questions that you guys have about the changes or just this policy in general?
When you say changes, these are the current practicing things this year.
This is the current policy,
yes.
but what I wanted to point out to you was what was different from last year.
I just wanted to make sure that was clear because
Yes,
it.
yes.
We didn't
Because
change
when
anything
you say
else.
new, it sounds, or changes, it makes me think, or
Okay.
makes some people think for next year or for this upcoming year.
These
that
were
we're
the things that
negotiating.
were changed from the
Being
16-17
Right,
policy.
yes,
Okay,
and this is how I understood it, remembered it.
all right. Gosh, we're basically done. Anybody have things that they want to suggest for next month's agenda? And if you don't know now, anytime between now and the next 2 weeks, just email me, but.
I do know something. I think there's some flex time confusion, or it's kind of a mess.
You're gonna send me into a
I'm
stroke.
sorry. People thought,
I'm gonna have a stroke right
Okay.
here. Okay, we'll talk about
so
it.
that, like it was comp time, and they thought, oh, so I worked Monday, Tuesday later, I had that hour in that week, I could still use it, and
How about
That's a no, so-
send me kind of a synopsis of the concerns that you've heard, and then we'll talk about it
All right,
next
sounds
time.
I got
Flex time.
chest.
Do what? You got what?
I got chest.
That's okay, you get
Oh.
those.
Other suggestions at this point? And like I said, in the next 2 weeks, if something comes up, send them to me.
We have, we would like to have a conversation about the handbook, particularly.
The employee handbook?
Yes,
Okay,
particularly a section in the handbook.
what section? are we-
Section 18.
18? I didn't even know we had that many. What's section 18 about?
Employee acknowledgement.
Oh, okay. We can do that.
I know that I had an administrator ask me today to talk, get on the agenda a little bit about the teachers upset about the hour leave. They just want either some clarification or I guess it would be with ASOP, I guess, just when and where, just
You haven't heard that before or anything, have you?
Let me get my shock face on.
I know, but
I've had questions about ASOP also.
We didn't have that
from somebody.
conversation a few weeks ago.
Okay, anything else?
one more thing, could we see if?
I think
this-
you're limited to
I
one
know,
thing.
I know. Okay,
Just give it to them.
could we extend the time that teachers, staff, whoever can put in their absences in ASOP instead of having that cutoff at be, 8:30 or whatever it is? Here's, like Karen is our person that has to fix our ASOP mess. And so this morning, here's an example. I had to be gone for a couple hours for my daughter's doctor's appointment in Kansas City. I had no idea when I was coming back. So it's like, well, I'll be back at 9 or 10. I don't know. But that, if I were to, when I come back, I can't just go in and fix it because Karen
Basically
has
stops you
to.
from being able to do it at the time that you're supposed to start work.
But see, Karen has to do it. If it were just, if they would extend that time just a little bit, then I could do it and not buzz her.
Send that to me in email form too.
Okay.
Not really, because I don't work with it.
Okay.
Send that to Wes.
No,
Wes has nothing else to do.
send it to me.
I get to deal with the time clock.
I'll talk with Lisa. All right, anything else for the time?
I would just ask that on hourly employees, the clocking in, the clocking out of time clock, I talked to Wes earlier. You know, every month when an administrator has to go in and do the approvals and like that, it's about 4 hours. At our building, in Central is a magnified building. It's about 4 hours of work, and anywhere from 28 to 33 people didn't even verify their time or didn't
No
check
pay.
anything.
No
Didn't
pay.
check anything. I don't know if it's building to building, I don't know if it's building to building, but it's a massive,
Then I'm giving you my phone. When the
yeah, it's a massive, so I'm just asking everyone, make sure you tell groups, verify your times and make sure they're right. If you're a 7.5 hour employee, just make sure it's correct with the half-hour lunch and we're good.
I'll tell my group.
Because it's crazy.
It's too much.
Remember, next month, we're on the second Thursday because of parent-teacher conferences. So it'll be a little less time in between. Thank you very much. I think we got a great deal done. Appreciate your
And they have to-
cooperation and participation.